Let us wait for 2 more minutes for other students to join and then we will start our class.
But everybody has to send the feedback.
Sorry, I
Feedback.
didn't know.
Does everybody have?
Regarding feedback,
Yes, ma'am.
this form is for those students, basically those who have joined a little late. So if they want an extra class, I just wanted a number. How many students want an extra class regarding previous lectures which they have missed? So this form is for those students, but if you all want to fill and you have any feedback and suggestions, you can also fill.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, in the form where they ask for the roll number, uh,
Okay, you don't have roll number. So just put anything in random. Nobody is verifying it. Just
uh,
write your application ID.
thank you, ma'am.
Now, do you have any doubts regarding what we are covering in lab or in theory? Means, are you getting everything? Are you understanding each and everything we are discussing in class?
Ma'am, I have a doubt in Python.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, should I share my screen
No,
itself?
अगर वो it's if it's related to some program, then we will uh, means
Ma'am, it's
this.
just taking an average. While taking an average of two numbers, I got a value like 0 point some 15.78 and a lot of zeros. Then in the end, it was one. But it should have been just 15.78. Like if I would do the calculation manually, it should be 15.78, but it was coming 15.78, many zeros and then one.
So there is a certain number of certain decimal numbers which certain fractional numbers which come after a decimal point. So there is a way to uh, set the precision. Mean how many decimal values you want. So we will discuss it during this week's lab. अगर ये वाला है कि you want a certain numbers only, then that can be done. Just remind me during lab.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I took 15.75 and 15.81. And
हाँ
result
तो
was
हाँ
15.78, many zeros and then one.
हाँ
That
so
is
then
what.
हाँ
Ma'am,
so
this was the question on assignment.
for the integral part and the fractional part.
Yes, ma'am.
So अभी अभी डिस्कस करेंगे लैब का डिस्कस करेंगे आई एम आस्किंग अबाउट द थ्योरी इफ यू आर फेसिंग एनी डिफिकल्टी इन अंडरस्टैंडिंग द concepts regarding these issues we will discuss them in lab. Okay, so let's begin today's class. So far, we have discussed about computer organization. We have also discussed how our program gets means what where they are stored and where what happens when we try to execute them. Okay, we started with the interpreter based language because that is easy to understand, that is easy to debug. We don't have to worry about syntax and semantic errors. Most of the things are handled by these languages. So we started with it, but our now main focus will be, and the majority of focus of this subject will be to learn algorithms which you can execute in C language. Okay, so the first thing you have to learn is how to design your algorithm. You're given a problem, given some constraints, how you can solve it. Algorithmic, you have to design it's algorithm, and then how to convert then that algorithm in program, and how to execute it. Okay, so when we started with Python programming, or we discussed that there are certain basic elements. Okay, if we wanted to learn English language, we have discussed that we will first learn alphabets A, B, C, D, and then we will learn how to combine these words, these alphabets into words, then sentences and paragraphs. Similarly, if we talk about uh, C programming language, it is similar. It has similar steps as compared to Python. So we first have alphabets, digits, and special characters. This thing is called as character set of C. These are combined, these to form constants, variables, and keywords. These are again combined along with these special symbols which act as operators to form instructions. Instructions or statements in Python. And then we create a program, C program. Okay. If we talk about C character set, then we have alphabets, both uppercase and lowercase. We have digits, and we have special symbols like tilde, exclamatory, @ hash, and so on. Plus, minus, multiplication, and all these. Now let's start with variable. So variable is a named value holder in primary memory. Okay, a named, or we can say a named location that can be used to store value. Okay, now in case of C, each variable has a type and identifier. There are other things as well, but whenever we create a variable, it must have a type, a data type, which tells what kind of values can be stored in these variables and what will be the memory requirement. And identifier, what is an identifier? It has similar meaning as in Python. It is just a name we choose for a variable. Okay. What do we mean by named memory location? We have discussed that we can say that the RAM is divided into number of cells. Okay. So each cell has an address associated with it. Suppose I have a memory address 241. Okay. So when I create a variable, suppose I name this memory address as A, and this can store a value. This can be used to store a value, this variable. Now it has two attributes associated with it. So one is type, like what type of values it can hold. It can hold integer values, it can hold floating point values, and other kind of types we will just see. and it will have a name, this name. Okay, there will be an identifier. Okay, so what are the rules for identifier? Now you have to tell me. The rules are similar to Python. So, okay, let me write certain numbers, certain variable names, and you tell me whether it's a valid variable name or not. Now, out of these, what are valid variable names? So, this is a valid variable name, but it is a poor programming style. Okay, this is valid, but if we talk about good programming practices, it doesn't satisfy this thing. Okay, because it should have a meaningful variable name, though it's a valid variable. This is also a valid variable name. This is also a valid variable name. This is not a valid variable name because hyphen is not allowed. A identifier can be a combination of digits, alphabets, and underscore. So any other special character is not allowed. So this is also not allowed. This is also not allowed because a name identifier can begin with only alphabet and underscore. It is beginning with a number, it is beginning with a digit. So this is also not allowed. This is also not allowed because it's a keyword. So what are keywords? We have already discussed this earlier. These are part of your programming language. Okay. So these can't be taken as identifiers. Now, C, like Python, is a case sensitive language. That is, if we have these identifiers num and num, they will be considered as two different identifiers. Is this clear? Any doubt?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, how second one is the identifier? How space is identifier? I didn't understand.
Second one, I have introduced a underscore here. That's why.
Oh, okay, okay.
Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So these are the things which we have already discussed. So I'm not taking it in detail. Now coming here, type. We said that there will be two attributes associated with variable. One is type and another one is identifier. So this, what do we understand by type? So this type defines a set of values. It defines set of values and set of operations that can be applied on those values. Okay. For example, if I have a light switch, so this light switch, if we compare it with computer type, then it can has two, it can have it can has two values. One is on and another one is off. Only two values are possible. Then how many operations can be applied to those values? I can apply either light switch turn on or turn off. Okay, so basically it tells what are the permissible values with the type and what are the different operations which can be performed. Okay, now we are not covering all the data types, but yeah, we will be covering some basic data types of C. Okay, so some basic C types. The first one is void. What is a void data type? अभी के लिए you just remember it that there is a void data type we will use later, very later, but this is a void data type. It is designated by keyword void. It has no values and no operations. Okay. Then what is the use of it? Don't ask anything, just remember this thing. We will discuss it much later. Second, we have integer types. Integer, as we have discussed earlier, it's a number without fractional part. And we have different integer data types in C. We have short int, we have int, long int, and long int. The short int can be represented by 2 bytes. 2 bytes meaning how many values? 2 raised to power n minus 1.
3.
2 raised to power n minus 1 minus 1. Okay, because by default we are considering integers can be both positive and negative. Okay, so it will be 32768 to 32767. We have 4 bytes. You can see the range yourself. Long int can be represented by 8 bytes, and long integers can also be represented by 8 bytes. 8. Why this long integer? Because some processors, somewhere it may use larger memory, but in the latest version of C, it both takes 8 bytes of memory.
Excuse me, ma'am, what is this minus 32768?
32767. ये हमने range पढ़ी थी
Yes,
when we
ma'am.
were discussing number system. So 2's complement में if there are 8 bits, so what is the range of numbers, decimal numbers, which can be represented using 8 bits?
Minus 2 की power n minus 1 to 2 की power n minus 1 minus 1.
So बस ये यही है. This is the range of numbers which can be represented with short int. हमने बोला था what a type denotes. A type denotes the set of values, कि किस values को हम represent कर सकते हैं इस type में, and the set of operations. We will discuss set of operations later on, but these are the set of values which can be represented using this type of variable. Is it clear?
Ma'am,
Yes.
I'm short or short with this.
This is short int, short.
Okay.
Okay. Now how we create these variables? So we will create like int, suppose number, semicolon, or short int number. So this number is a variable of type int which which uses 4 bytes of memory and can represent a range of numbers from, you have to calculate, okay, it's something 2147483 something like that. Now we said that integer can have both positive values and negative values. So when we create or when we define a variable using this statement, suppose, then by default it is taken as signed integer variable. Signed integer variable means this will be the range. It will include both negative and positive. If you want this short int to represent only positive values, then you have to define it as unsigned one, that is only positive number. So it will be created by using this keyword unsigned int number or unsigned short int number. Now how many values this can be what is the range of numbers which can be represented by this number variable? What is the range of numbers that can be represented by the 0
0 to 2 raised power n minus 1 minus 1.
हाँ, तो वो क्या हो गया रेंज? अगर this was my range for signed integer, what would be the range for unsigned one?
From 0 to 3277.
65526.
0 to
65535.
ठीक है. Because अब हमको पहले suppose we were using कितनी bits? इस केस में how many bits are used for representing number?
16.
16.
15 bits were used for representing number and one bit was our sign bit. In this case, all 16 bits can be used to represent number. In this particular case, range is 2 raised to power n minus 1. Okay. In this case, range was 2 raised to power n minus 1 to 0 to 2 raised to power . Okay. Is this clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you have such representation where you don't need any negative number, it's always better to define unsigned integer because it will consume lesser amount of memory. Okay. And you can represent twice as large as the signed integers of the same size. The second is real types or floating point types. So these real types hold values that consist of an integral and a fractional part. Okay. So we have different type of real types. One is float. It requires 4 bytes of memory. Double, 8 bytes. We have long double as well, but we use only these one. These are the most popular one we will use. So if we want to create variable, suppose float marks, float or double percentage. Clear? Another type of data type is a Boolean type. It can represent only two values, true or false. So this Boolean data type is referred by keyword bool, and it is stored in the memory as 0 or 1. 0 for false and 1 for true. Okay. In Python, we have these words, true and false. Here in C, we represent Boolean using, means they are stored in memory as true or 0 and 1. 0 for false and 1 for true. Another data type is a character data type. This is referred to by keyword char. Okay, and it requires only 1 byte. So char a char symbol like this. Now this is so far what we have discussed, that we are only talking about variable right now, and we are talking about attributes of variables, like it has a identifier and it has data type. Now how to declare variables, let's come to it.
मैम
Yes.
मैम जैसे इफ ऐसे ट्रू या फॉल्स रिटर्न करते हैं तो उसमें 0 और 1 का कैसे यूज होता है मतलब
क्या अभी ये हम चीजें आगे पढ़ेंगे, अभी दिस इज जस्ट एन इंट्रोडक्शन, अभी इट विल कम लेटर ऑन.
ओके मैम.
So what do we mean by variable declaration? First of all, each variable in your program must be declared and defined. So there are two things: declaration and definition. So in C, okay, first talk about what do we understand by declaration and what do we understand by definition. So declaration is used to name any object or name any variable. So when we create variables, declaration gives them a symbolic name. And definition reserves memory for it. Suppose I write this statement, int a. When we talk about only declaration, so what does it mean? that there is an integer variable, okay, जिसको मैंने नाम दिया है a. That's all. That is the meaning of declaration. I have just given a name to a variable. When we talk about definition, it is of type int. It needs 4 bytes of memory. So it will allot 4 bytes to this memory जिसका कोई address है, suppose 400. So this is starting address. This is the अच्छा इतना अभी नहीं जाते हम. Suppose this is my memory location. Okay, it is 4 bytes of memory. It has a memory address, and I have given this memory address a name which is A. Okay. When we talk about declaration, it's just a mapping. सिर्फ एक नाम दे दिया. When we talk about definition, it reserves a memory for it. इसको, if we want to understand this with an example, suppose you come to LNMIT soon, hopefully, then you will be allotted some hostel and some room. So your hostel can be considered as RAM, which is divided into number of cells, which can be considered as your hostel rooms. ठीक है. अब on paper you have given कि okay, you have been allotted suppose room number 101. Okay, नहीं, you will be allotted a room in the hostel. This is just a declaration. Okay, जब when you will be allotted a room number जहाँ पे you can store your belongings, you can keep yourself, then it is a definition. Declaration में सिर्फ नाम, definition में reserves memory for it. Okay, is it clear? Declaration and definition.
Yes, ma'am.
In C, with one exception. What is that exception? We will discuss it later. With one exception, declaration and definition occurs at same time. That is, a variable is declared and defined at the same time. How to do it? I write data type, variable name, that is identifier. Suppose I write num, that is all. Now अब इसका मतलब क्या है? Reserve space in memory to hold int type of value. ठीक है. So suppose I have reserved this memory and this is my memory address, suppose. Associate the name num with this memory location. So I associate name num in this memory location. Okay. Now this variable can be used to store values of type integer. Is this clear? Yes or no?
Excuse me, ma'am, you are putting semicolon after int num. So In Python, we
in
are
Python we used to press enter to terminate, to mark the end of the statement. In C, we put semicolon to mark the end of any statement. ठीक है?
ma'am, but where we are assigning the value to the num.
अभी assign नहीं करा, अभी we have just defined a variable.
But in Python, ma'am, we have
Don't confuse it with Python. Python में I have told you that there is a different meaning of variable. Here, there in Python, variables were created using assignment operator. ठीक है? And they just refer to that particular object. पाइथन में हमने कोई डेटा टाइप नहीं डिफाइन किया था, जिस तरह की वैल्यूज को असाइन करोगे उस तरह का वो वेरिएबल बन जाता है. ओके, it just refers to a value of a particular type in Python, that's all, and variables are creating always using a assignment operator. In C we have two different concepts, declaration and definition, and in C variable should have a identifier and a type, which was not the case in Python. Okay,
मैम ये वाला एग्जांपल और बार बता दीजिए.
sorry,
मैम आखिरी वाला एक और बार बता दीजिए जब वो दोनों सेम टाइम पे होते हैं, डिक्लेरेशन और डेफिनेशन.
डिक्लेरेशन डेफिनेशन अलग अलग ही, सिर्फ एक एक्सेप्शन के अलावा whenever you write these statement, no, declaration and definition occurs at same time in C. There is no concept like अलग से declare हो रहा है या अलग से define हो रहा है. There is just one exception to it. We will discuss this later. Otherwise, when you write this statement, you say that declaration and definition happens at same time. The mapping हो रही है कि हाँ, you have given a name to a variable and of type integer. This mapping has been done here कि एक integer type का variable है जिसका नाम है num. That's all. Definition means we have allocated memory address 652 for this variable num. Okay. When in C, declaration and definitions occur at same time. A variable is declared and defined at the same time. This is the rule of thumb. Clear?
डिक्लेरेशन डेफिनेशन जब मेमोरी रिजर्व करेगा तो जब तक हमने डिफाइन ही नहीं किया कितने बिट कितने साइज का, तो कितनी मेमोरी स्टोर,
वो मेमोरी टाइप हमने बता दिया ना. हमने डेटा टाइप का क्या बताया था कि it tells about the what type of values it can store and what kind of operations we can perform on these types. So whenever you have defined this variable, it has a identifier and it has type. So वो type बताएगा कि उसको मेमोरी में कितनी स्पेस चाहिए. 4 bytes चाहिए, 6 bytes चाहिए, 8 bytes चाहिए, whatever. Okay?
ओके ना.
Now we have told that in C, your every variable should be defined before using it. Okay. Now once you have defined the variable, they can be used to hold the data. Okay. Now let's hold some value in this variable. Again, we have two concepts: initialization versus assignment. So after a variable is defined, they can be used to hold a variable. So we can do it in two ways. Suppose I write int num and num equals to 5 is assigned to num. So this is variable definition and assign value 5 to this variable num. Okay, this is called as assignment statement. Assigning a value using assignment operator. This is our assignment operator. Another way is when you define variable and give it the value at the same step. Suppose I write it like this: int num equals to 5. So here I am defining the variable and also assigning it some value using assignment operator. This is called as initialization. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, as we use the hash in Python to put comments, ma'am, are you using double slash here
Yes,
or
double slash here for comments. We will discuss about comments later on. I'm just telling you about the basic elements of Python right now. Sorry, basic elements of C right now.
okay, ma'am?
So this is declaration, definition. So हमने एक variable create कर लिया and then we store value 3 at this location. ठीक है? अब whenever this num comes, now this num has a different value, but its type should be same. So at later stage, I can assign it to some different value. Suppose this. Now, whenever our compiler see this num, what it will do? It knows that it should look for this memory address 642, and now it will store value 10. It will override this value with new value, that is 10. Is this clear? Now, another concept is uninitialized. There are some languages where if you have not initialized your variable, this is the initialization when you are defining and assigning some initial value to it. So if you have not initialized a variable, suppose I have created a variable int num. I have not provided it with some value. And suppose I want to print this value. I want to print the value of num. Whatever is the syntax, I just want to print the value of num. So see, there are certain languages which provide automatic, which gives some initial value to uninitialized variable. In C, this doesn't happen. So if you try to print the value of uninitialized variable, you will get some garbage value. Okay. Is this clear?
Ma'am, can you explain once again?
I am saying that if you have not assigned a value to a variable, either by initialization or by assignment, and if you try to print the value of that variable, you will get a garbage value. ठीक है, कुछ भी garbage value हो सकती है जो उस लोकेशन में पहले से पड़ी हो या कुछ भी. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So if you try to use any uninitialized variable in your code, मतलब suppose आगे जाके you have not initialized it some variable, initialize it with some value और बाद में उसको use कर लोगे, तो you will get some random output. Okay, due to this garbage value.
It won't give any empty result, like it won't put 0 there.
No. It in C++, this doesn't happen. It doesn't give some initial value to any uninitialized variable automatically. Okay.
So ma'am, the result could be anything.
Result could be anything, yeah. Many times it may happen that you get a proper output because there may be a possibility कि उस memory location पे पहले से कुछ value होगी, तो वो value वो return कर देगा, और अगर नहीं हुई तो वो बहुत एक random सा एक output देगा. It would be a large integer number.
मैम
Yes.
मैम अगर हमने इंट में ऐसा नंबर असाइन कर दिया जो इसको उसकी कैपेसिटी से बाहर जाता है तो क्या प्रिंट होगा?
वो क्या प्रिंट होगा वो वी विल डिस्कस लेटर कि इसमें क्या केस होगा. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट क्लास में.
मैम इसमें कभी भी एरर शो नहीं होगा गार्बेज वैल्यू में?
नहीं, इट विल नॉट शो यू एरर. ठीक है. नाउ कॉन्स्टेंट्स, देयर आर 3 थिंग्स. पहले हमने कैरेक्टर सेट देख लिया. नाउ देयर आर कीवर्ड्स, देयर आर वेरिएबल्स एंड कॉन्स्टेंट्स. So according to data type, we have certain number of values which that type can hold. Okay, so these are the constant values which can't be changed. So what are the Boolean constants? So Boolean constants are true or false. So suppose I have a variable bool, flag is equals to false or true. Here the first character is also in lowercase. All the characters are in lowercase. Then we have character constant related to character type. So any symbol, any single symbol or character which is enclosed in single quotes constitutes our character constants. So it can be char, ch equals a, or all these are character constant which are enclosed in single quotes. This is not allowed. There can only be a single character. Okay, there are certain special characters जिसका meaning हम बाद में देखेंगे. They are also called character constant. Okay, this is not.
Please explain again.
I am saying any single character which is enclosed inside single quotes constitute your character constant. And there can be a single character or a single symbol only. So this is also your character constant. ठीक है? But if you try to write this A and B, there are 2 letters. Okay, 2 letters enclosed inside single quotes. This is not allowed. In character constant, there can be only a single letter inside single quotes. Now there are some special character constants /n, /t and some others. इनका मतलब क्या होता है? We will discuss later on. Okay. Then we have integer constants. Integer constants, according to the range of values they can represent, we can have this int num equals to 2, 3, 4, 6 like that. What will happen if it will try to store values that are out of range? We will discuss tomorrow, but this is the permissible numbers without any fractional part. If we have large numbers, right? So there is another way of writing these integer constants like 2e6. This is equivalent to your mathematical 2 into 10 raised to power 6. So this, instead of writing multiple zeros or you can write it in this way as well.
Ma'am, is the n of num is capital?
Yeah, matlab this is your choice na, whatever identifier you want to choose, you can choose. It doesn't change the meaning of integer constant. Okay.
Can we write like 2.3 E1?
See, not for integer constants, no, that will be your
But
floating point constant.
ultimately it will be an integer.
हाँ, अभी हम सिर्फ क्या होता है वो सीख रहे हैं. अभी हम क्या क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज हैं, ऐसा होगा तो क्या होगा वो नहीं सीख रहे. अभी we are just talking about basics.
Okay.
Similarly, we have real constants, where if we want to include floating point numbers, we can have these fractional part or decimal numbers included like this. Okay, so these are the things. We have character, boolean, integer, and real constants. There are some coding constants as well. एक बार के लिए समझ लो चीजें, ये कहाँ पे कैसे यूज आएंगी, हम बाद में और अच्छे से ये these things will come later on as well, but you need to understand कि हमारे पास क्या क्या constructs हैं, कैसे variable create हो सकता है, what do we mean by constants, and what are the possible values we can means how you can provide these constant values, assign these constant values to integers. So there are some coding constants also. First one is the literal constant. So literal is an unnamed constant used to specify a data. Suppose I write it like this. ठीक है, तो ये वाला जो कांस्टेंट है उसका कोई नाम नहीं है. इस वाले कांस्टेंट को तो हम कैसे एक्सेस कर सकते हैं, परसेंट वेरिएबल से. These are the constant which don't have any name. So this kind of constants are called as literal. They can be integer literals, they can be float literals, character literals, anything. Okay. Now, another way of defining constants is using the define keyword. What is this? We will come to it later on as well. Hash define. Then you take a variable name. And you will not use assignment operator here. You just write the value which this represents. So this is a constant value. This is a way to these are the defined constant values. This you can't change in your entire program. The sales text will always refer to this value. Okay, here we have not used assignment operator to define these constants. So that's all for means that would be sufficient for right now. For the basics we will start.
Now, do you have to write like this hashtag define?
Yes. This is the way. This is the exact way. Hash define is same. Then you can choose any identifier. Generally, when we use these defined keywords, we use these identifier in all uppercase characters. And instead of equals to, you write the value. Now this value can be anything. It can be a character. It can be It can be a character constant, floating, or integer, anything. So this is the basic syntax of these type of constants.
मैम अगर
Ma'am, there is no space
प्रोग्राम
bar
में
needed between hash and define.
No, nothing. No semicolon, no operator, nothing.
Okay, ma'am. And ma'am, what the assignment operator is still equal to, right? Single equal to.
This is all. This is the assignment operator here as well.
Okay, ma'am.
मैम अगर प्रोग्राम में बाद में सेल्स टैक्स की वैल्यू चेंज करने
तो
चाहेंगे तो
error आ जाएगा.
नहीं हो पाएगी.
नहीं, error आ जाएगा. There will be an error.
ओके. और मैम लिटरल के एक एग्जांपल बता दीजिए.
लिटरल के एग्जांपल कुछ भी हो सकते हैं.
मैम
अभी हमने
कैरेक्टर का वो स्लैश एन कैरेक्टर का एग्जांपल था क्या? स्लैश एन और स्लैश टी.
हाँ, they can be considered. The character literal तब आएगा when we are not assigning those constant to some variable. मतलब हम उसको access नहीं कर पाएंगे किसी variable के through. So those are character literal can be like I will give you these examples when we will discuss operators क्योंकि अभी confusion हो जाएगा. So please stick to अभी integer literals, integer or floating literal. So these are very basics. अभी के लिए ये मत सोचो कि ये होगा तो क्या होगा. अभी से एक बार इसके लिए इसको समझ लो. We will come to those questions later on. एक छोटी सी चीज है. Just I'll take one more minute. Comments. If we want to have multiple line comments, so we will use double slash. This will not be read by C's compiler. Or there are another way of writing comments like this. This can be written in multiple line as well. I can have this like that. I can have multiple lines. I have starting opening comment and I will have closing comment symbol. Or I can use it this way as well. There is no harm. But generally, if we want to write, if we want to comment each and every line, instead of using this way, we use double slash. So these are the symbols for comments and these are ignored by C compiler. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, how do we what is the syntax for printing any value? Like
वो
print
अभी नहीं है इसके लिए. वो हम line by line चलेंगे. Now don't hurry up. Just शांति से whatever I am teaching इतना समझ लो. I'll take all these questions. ये होगा तो क्या होगा वो वाली चीज later on. ABCD समझ लो फिर देखेंगे कि वर्ड्स को अगर इधर उधर जोड़ के तोड़ के बनाते हैं तो क्या होगा.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, can we leave now?
Yeah, you can leave.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.